The Germans had imposed a curfew at the start of the occupation. No one could be out between midnight and 4 a.m. Only members of the air raid service were allowed outside. From September 1944, the curfew started at 8 p.m, sometimes 7 p.m. as a punishment. The Germans hung up placards stating that anybody out in the street could be shot.
The attempt was to sort of illuminate the ghosts of the city, because when I first came to Amsterdam, what was interesting for me was there were two narratives going on at the same time. I thought I was actually living with ghosts, living within the time.
Did you have moments of sort of raw emotion watching it come to life? Because of course your parents are very much part of the city as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my parents were in Amsterdam as children during the war. So you have a lot of memories there, of course. It was great to see it on the screen in this way. That, you know, leaves a lot of room for the viewer to make connections between the past and the present in a myriad of different ways.
Were there things they told you growing up that perhaps made its way into the book and then the film?
Absolutely, that made its way into the book, but not into the film, because the book has like more than 2,000 addresses, and the film has 130 of those.
Starting in October 1942, at least 11,000 people were deported from this station, mostly to transit camp Westerbork in the northeast of the Netherlands, and from there to the killing centres Auschwitz and Sobibor in occupied Poland.
Why is it important for us to understand our history?
Well, I think evidence of things not seen, how things came about, as things, you know, we take for granted, or things that we sort of have no idea how they emerged. I think it's important to sort of to follow that trail back to see how things came.
Perhaps sometimes you speak to young people and the current generation, they don't quite fully understand or comprehend what was fought for to achieve the liberties and freedoms that we have today.
Yeah, I also do think it's their right that they do forget. They can be oblivious to the past. I think it's, you know, it was fought for their freedoms, so for them to do so, fine. So I don't begrudge that in a way.
I mean, then I guess when we talk about things like Islamophobia and anti-Semitism and the sorts of things that we're seeing being discussed today, you know, where people are saying, well, actually we're seeing a repeat of our history in the 1930s or 1940s. How does that impact you?
Well, it's kind of interesting in the sense where it seems that we don't seem to learn from the past, but, you know, what else have we got to measure ourselves by in order to learn to not make the same mistakes again? But human beings. I mean, you know, unfortunately, in the recent times, you know, with the Dutch elections, you know, the far right party seems to have taken has taken all the majority of seats, and you know, and this party preaches unfortunately sort of Islamic phobia in how they sort of present and go about themselves. So there's a real kind of unfortunate, repeating of history right now.
On the day Germany capitulated, the 4th of May 1945, a German patrol started shooting at people celebrating out on the streets after the start of curfew at 7 p.m. A bullet struck Siggy Mendels, a Jewish boy who had ventured outside for the first time after hiding for years.
We see things, the horrors of the world and the sort of devastation, and a lot of the times people say things like, well, you know, is it that much worse now? Is it getting worse? And actually, is it just that we have more access to information? We have more access to what we're seeing through imagery, and, you know, it's at the tip of our fingertips in terms of on our phones, and therefore probably not any better or worse.
Well, I think you're right to say that. I think what's sort of problematic is the fact that with all of this information, with all this technology, people are still racist. People are still, you know, anti-Semitic. People are still Islamophobic. You know, anti-gay, and you know, with all this information, with all that we know. And it seems that the more we know, the less we know.
Do you, given that you've made this film and you've sort of had a whole conversation around what happened to one city in one place, do you sort of look at October 7 and everything that's happened in the Middle East and think, you know, that whole concept of never again is a thing that may or may not happen?
with these events and other events which have happened, as like I said, with what happened in the Netherlands with the elections, recent elections, you could only just sigh, really. And again, I don't have any answers. I think there's so much noise on this subject matter. I think for that noise to shut up and to sort of just to get to a situation where people can actually help to solve the situation. I'm more interested in how we get there. That's all. That's what I could say.
Steve, Bianca, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.